Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. We are getting started right about now. We're looking at what we're calling our third quarter viewing of the moon here at Swoon the Moon. Just a moment. And here we are. Hope everyone's doing well. All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Rancho Mirage Library and Observatory. Good morning, and hope everyone is having a good day so far. No, it's nice and early. It's nice and early for me. The sun is up, however, even though the satellite footage we have over there hasn't been updated to show what it looks like right now. Nevertheless, we are looking at the third quarter moon, roughly. Third quarter was actually yesterday, and we kind of can't, we kind of just don't have everything happen on Sunday here, so now the sky waits for no one, so we moved on a little bit from third quarter. Nevertheless, we are very close to it, and where we're at in the sky, well, the sun, as I mentioned, is rising. It's not on me right now because, well, it's behind the buildings here. But the moon is very, very high in the sky, as one would expect at third quarter. It's at its highest point in the sky right around sunrise. You can actually visualize that by turning on a few indicators here. Turn them all on. There's the meridian. Yeah, so that vertical line right there is the meridian, and as you can see, because we're just past third quarter, the moon isn't right at the meridian at the moment. And so if we zoom in on it, this is what we're looking at for the moon. It is very near half full, and the half that's full is the opposite half of what we normally are looking at with regards to our Swoon at the Moon events that we would have here on site. So it's great to see this particular view, but let's go ahead and actually look at it in a more diagrammatic fashion. This view here shows a nice map showing a lot of different things, including the scale of everything. The moon and the Earth on the chart, I always like to point out in the back of this view, the one hanging out over here and over here, there is actually a version of the Earth over there and a version of the moon right here. The reason why you don't really see them that well in this diagram at this point is because it is actually set up like you're viewing this diagram up here from a specific direction, and that direction at third quarter happens to be looking directly at both of the night sides of the moon and the Earth, respectively. So that's why you don't see it there, but nevertheless, you can see the gap in the chart over here showing that the moon is a little bit closer than its average value, which is nice for us. It makes it slightly bigger, but that's not really all that noticeable. But we can actually go ahead and view this a bit differently. If we want to zoom it in a bit more, we would see it like so. And so what we'll be able to look around for specifically right along the Terminator are things like Copernicus crater showing off nicely right over in the center of your image here, which is north of Reinhold, as well as the landing sites of Apollo 12 and 14. Apollo 14, nice and in the dark. We won't be seeing that area at all. We can maybe try and spot where Apollo 12 is. To the south, we have Mare Cognitum, Nubium, as well as a lot of good craters along the way, along with this one down here, Longomontanus. Yes, I can try and pronounce that one, but there's a lot of cool things to spot over in this area, as well as all the way over on the horizon. Lacus Veris and the area behind it is a really nice impact basin that we can try and view from another angle, at least virtually, but nevertheless, we got a good number of things we can actually go ahead and take a look at. So once again, to get some perspective on what we're looking at, it's always worthwhile to get this view. This is a view of the United States, of North America in general, with a ring that delineates where, or roughly the size of the full moon. So when we're looking at everything up there, that is the scales we're looking at. So in general, don't expect me to try and point out fine details like the actual landers. Those are very small because we're looking at scales much like this. But anyway, that said, we can actually go ahead and transition over to our small telescope view, which has a nice, good amount of the moon visible in it. All right, there we are. So we're set up with the view here showing roughly what I was talking about at a slightly different angle, and it's wandering off here. Come on back. Not that way. There we go. All right. And since we had a storm roll through over the weekend, our sky is rather turbulent. It's very clear, but it's turbulent, which means we're going to have a lot of waviness while we're looking at these images here. But with this view here, we can spot a few things. It's a bit dimmer in some respects, and the blue color is to be expected. That blue color is, in fact, largely due, well, to the fact that the sun is rising and we're getting a lot of Rayleigh scattering, causing a nice bluer tone to everything. Just want to highlight the Terminator real quick so we can see that stuff. You can see, again, Copernicus crater hanging out all the way up here. This is one that we actually have a 3D print of, and always like to show that off. We'll be spending a bit of time down in this region because there's a lot of interesting things to see down there. And that particular impact basin on the edge of the field of view I mentioned is way on down, literally right at the right at the horizon of the moon here. So that is a neat one to actually be able to view right on the edge there. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get a bit of a higher magnified view of this moon here. So where are we right now? Well, actually switching right back, we are right down where I said we're going to be spending quite a bit of time right down in this region here. So that is where we're jumping to in our large view right off the bat. All right, now in this view, we can spot some really interesting things, and I want to nudge over towards, nope, the other way. Kind of hard to aim this one going every way I don't want it to. There we go. Have to keep in mind that this view is constantly being rotated, and actually the derotator on the telescope has decided to make some adjustments for us, so the field of view will be rotating for us right now. I can actually get that to stop at a useful point. Go a little bit further so we can get north roughly up on our field of view. Right about there is good enough. Hey there. There we go. All right. So, that angle, I definitely want to go down and to the right. And it started up again. Up, all of it. There you go. Enough with the derotation. There we go. Now, down and to the right should take me to where I want to go. As long as the frame rate keeps up well enough. Come on. Almost down there. There we go. There we go. All right. wanted to come down here because there's a really interesting crater. And if you're looking at the screen now, you should be able to note that one of these things is not like the others. One of these things just... Yes, that crater right in the center is Shiller Crater. This one right here. It is very elongated, as you might note, and that is not just because we're looking closer towards the limb of the moon, that is near the edge of the moon. No, it actually is an elongated crater, and as an elongated crater, you might be wondering, well, how do you end up with an elongated crater? Well, the answer is... well, there's a few possibilities. It's not fully known. The expectation in this case is believed to be a series of impacts that actually join together, though there is, and at least at some point back in the Apollo era, there were more papers suggesting that it might be volcanic in origin. But there's been a very few papers on the subject in a long time, so exactly what is the actual case? That's a good question. Now, in this region, looking at Shiller, it is worth looking at it in a slightly different way. And I just hit the wrong button. Pull that back up. All right, that's the button I want. But yeah, we can look at it a different way. And I just realized I didn't actually bring SpaceEngine back into the solar system. So we're hanging out in another place here. So let's go ahead and fly on off to the moon in SpaceEngine, because I want to give a different perspective on Shiller Crater. And so let's fly on off to the moon from an entirely different star system, because I got some other things I was looking at. All right, here we are. Okay, and looking at the moon, what can we see? Well, all the things we were talking about. The direction in which we approach the moon appears to be largely from the far side. So let's swing ourselves on. Yep. Oh, also it would help if it was now. This is in the future, so this is now. Okay, now, that impact basin I was mentioning, that was right near the edge of the moon, or the edge of our view of the moon, is the one I've got centered for us here. That one, its name is... really quick. The computer's not freezing. There we go. That is Mare Orientale. Yeah, it's on the eastern limb of the moon. It's actually way on the... if you were on the moon, you would travel west to get to it. But in any case, it is a big impact basin that has a lot of ejecta around it, and as it is dark in the middle, it's expected that it filled up with lava at that time of impact. Now, wanted to swing back down to Shiller, which is right down here. There we are. Now, I've often had people ask me to show them like the landing sites of the Apollo spacecraft, show me the landers, show me the flag, show me the footprints. Well, I can't show you those footprints, but Shiller is interesting because it's actually kind of shaped like a footprint. So here you go. This is your lunar footprint for you. So finally got one for you all. All right. So that is the best footprint I'll be able to give you for looking at the moon. It's Shiller Crater. As mentioned, it is really elongated and likely due to multiple impacts, possibly one here and one down here. But it is nevertheless an interesting crater in any case, just because of the unique nature of it. There is a similar basin on Mars that is substantially larger. This one is around, I believe it's 160 or so kilometers long. This one here, the one on Mars, is substantially larger, and origins of that become a little bit harder to figure out. So we still have a lot of mysteries with regards to even just general surface features on other worlds. Anyway, back to our big telescope view, and you can see again that nice Shiller Crater hanging out right there. And we were also looking north of Shiller Crater was Another one, goodness. Cause the central peak in the upper crater. Again, if it is due to impact, that might be a rebound where it was a large enough impact that the surface actually rebounded up and sort of froze in place. But again, in particular with this one, it is a bit of a hard one to fully understand because we do have a lot of unknowns in this particular crater. And for certain things here. All right, so while we're looking here, swing back over here to show not this view, but oops, apologies. This view here, and back in this view, we are again looking down here, all the way down to south of Humorum at Shiller. Let's go ahead and see if we can find that Longomontanus. Longomontanus. Yeah, it is a mouthful, to say the least. So, back over at... Second. Oh. If you're looking directly beneath me, you'll notice it's dramatically redder. Yeah, we actually just lost our big telescope view because the sun is actually up so high that the sky is getting a bit too bright for it. But we can still swing by our small telescope view. And in our small telescope view, we can still see quite a bit. If I can just adjust a little bit. There we go. Okay. Let's see if we can't cheat out some detail with this setup. All right, so let's go ahead and say, I want to see this region. Okay. So it's nowhere near as clear as what we had upstairs, but in any case, we can still see Shiller Crater hanging out right about here. And so, if we're looking for Longomontanus, it is this crater up here, just barely on this side of the Terminator there. That's a really interesting region. In general, there's just a lot to explore there. But I want to make sure anytime we're here, we swing by some Apollo landing sites. So if we're looking for Apollo landing sites, we want to look near Copernicus crater. So let's go ahead and look in this general region here. Make that bigger. That is dim for us, so let's brighten it up. All right. So let's go ahead and consult our map and see where we're looking here. So if we're looking for Apollo 12 landing site, we've got Reinhold and Landsberg being our nice our landmarks here while we're looking in Mare Insularum. And so if we are looking back at our small telescope view, we've got Copernicus hanging out up here. And then we had the other two craters here and here. So that means for Apollo 12, we're looking for the landing site roughly right around here. So that is Apollo 12's landing site there. Again, if you don't believe me, we can swap back over here. There you are. So yeah, roughly right about down here. There we are. Yeah. So that is a good little spot there. Today we are doing as much as we can. We are actually pushing a bit of the limits on what we're able to do looking at the moon, just because of the fact that we're starting at a point that is late in the morning. nevertheless, we can still keep on looking at objects here. Bit more bright features rather than washing them out. All right. Yeah, Ron is right. The Apollo landings were done in order to actually utilize those shadows that would be cast to help the astronauts actually gauge their height. Where we're at now would actually be a decent time for landing at the Apollo 12 landing site, with one exception, and that is that it's nearing sunset, and so you wouldn't be able to stay there very long. They would have stayed there. The Apollo 12, I don't remember how long they were on the ground. It would have been still one of the shorter missions, but still might have been long enough that they would have been concerned about falling into the nighttime, whereas normally they would land just after sunrise at that point on the moon. Let's see. What else would I like? Had a few other spots picked out that I'd like to go visit, but a little bit thrown off on a few things because some things not working this morning. So let's see. Now, while we're looking here, of course, the biggest feature we can see here is one of the biggest seas we're looking at. Wow, theirs was a 10-day mission. Is that right, Ron? Wow. Yeah, they would have been very much in the dark if they had landed at this point in time on the moon. Yeah. So one of the biggest features we can look at right now, of course, is 31 hours for Apollo 12. Gotcha. Yeah, that sounds right. Because they would have slept there and whatnot. But yeah, biggest feature we're looking at is Oceanus Procellarium, the ocean of storms, of which there are these other seas within it. But the ocean of storms is the largest sea on the moon. It is a low-lying area that filled in with lava long ago, and that is what gives it its darker color there. It also has dramatically fewer craters in it, just because, well, it's younger surface than the highlands, and so it ends up again darker and much less featured. But that is another reason why it's neat to see some of the big craters that stand out. Again, Copernicus was a worthwhile one to point out. Again, the one hanging out right here. Oops. Right there. All right. Yeah, thank you, Lauren. Yeah, I'm being helped out. I meant to say this earlier. Being helped out today by Lauren Zuckerberg, our observatory coordinator. She's there in chat with all of you. So again, thank you. Yeah, she covered that Pete Conrad and Alan Bean performed 2 extravehicular activities with a total of 7 hours and about 30 minutes. And that is really a nice thing to note with them. That particular mission was a worthwhile one for a lot of reasons, and for exploring that particular mission, I highly recommend an episode of From the Earth to the Moon. Alan Bean passed away a couple years ago, and we actually played the episode from the Earth to the Moon that is focused on Apollo 12. And it actually goes through the entire mission from Alan Bean's perspective. He not only was an astronaut, he was also an artist, and many of his works are highly valued because they are done from the perspective of someone who went there. He painted a lot of moonscapes and other Apollo-related things after the fact. Very talented. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. I want to actually take another quick look around. All right. So this morning, I wanted to actually capture Venus for everyone, but it's a bit too close to the sun, and since it took a while for the dome to actually decide to close already, I might be able to override that and get us a little bit longer view, but still, it's better not to for the sake of the instrumentation in there. And I might also be able to adjust some things here now that temperature has shifted. Just a moment. All right, one of the biggest things that causes a need, excuse me, to refocus a telescope is temperature variation, and it's been decently cold out here this morning, and that is what has driven a little bit of the blurriness for the camera out here. Is it was inside, I brought it outside, and now it's warming up, so it's going through quite a journey of temperatures, and so now we're a little bit better focused. We might be able to see a bit more nicely here. In fact, I am going to take a look right down in this region here. That one. Yeah, we're a bit zoomed in, that's why it's still a bit blurry there. But the area we're looking at, I want to highlight. That is Grimaldi. It is another impact basin, and it's named for Francisco Maria Grimaldi. He was an Italian astronomer and physicist from 1618 to 1663, so just about a contemporary of Isaac Newton. And so that is a good little impact basin to be able to spot. Over on the left is another dark spot. That is Riccioli. 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 Named for Giovanni Battista, another Italian astronomer who actually predates Grimaldi. He lived from, well, actually was a bit of a contemporary as well, from 1598 to 1671. Yeah, lots of different astronomers throughout the ages, especially from the Renaissance era onward, got craters on the moon named after them because of, well, availability of features for one thing. Go ahead and zoom on back out. Go ahead and head on down here. All right. So near the edges of the seas on the moon, you'll see some really interesting things. This particular feature here is really interesting because it actually is basically a half-filled crater. Let's see, I want to make sure I'm in the right spot here. As it's getting brighter, it's getting more and more challenging for me to actually even see the screens I'm working with here. hang on a second. Lost myself. Back out. Spot in a moment. I get my bearings. There we are. Mark. That's the one. Okay. Okay. Got my bearings back. Let's zoom back in on that. I like that crater. I love seeing half-filled craters. Why? Because, well, they look like something. They look a bit like a nice bay. We're looking at this crater up here. Half of it is consumed by the sea there, the mare. And why would I reference it that way? Well, again, they're referred to as mares or seas because they at one point thought they were filled with water. They're not. They were filled with lava. But that means features like this that looks like a nice bay kind of get that name. This one is Sinus Iridum. It is and that term sinus is actually referring to the bay shape of it. But yeah, it's the Bay of Rainbows. And I just love the way it happens to look there. The crater up on its rim there is Bianchini, named for another Italian astronomer, Francesco Bianchini, who lived a little bit later than the others at 1662 to 1729. So, love actually visiting a number of these. And, oh, hey, another crater actually down to the south there. If you did not catch our distancing with the stars for Mars, there's a funny thing here. I need to check because I didn't know this crater was named here on the moon. This is Sharp Crater. There is a Mount Sharp on Mars. That is where you will find in the middle of Gale Crater. You will find the Curiosity rover climbing up that one. But this one, I would have to check to make sure they're actually named for the same person. But this one is named for Abraham Sharp, a British astronomer and mathematician, again from 1651 to 1742. So again, right in that late Renaissance and early modern era. But yeah, so let's see. I just love the way a lot of these things look. We can spend a lot of time looking at these, and it's starting to get very blue here. Because of the fact that the sun has risen and is driving a few things here, we won't be able to go much longer. Let's see. Swing back by our map to see if there's anything we really want to make sure we swing by before we wrap up. Yep, there's Sinus Iridum next to Mare Ibrium. Yeah. Let's see. Oh yeah, fun note for me. Up in this area, up on the edge of the moon, I'm not sure exactly where it is, there's a crater by the name of McLaughlin, not named for me or anyone who's directly related to me, but I always like to note it because it's actually got my name on it. Anyway, but yeah, it's a hard one to spot because it is right on the edge of the limb of the moon. You're very welcome. Thank you for being here. Let's see. I think I covered most of the areas I want to here. I did try and go pretty quick on a lot of these just because we had a very little time. Lava tubes, we might be able to find some, but since we aren't working with the main telescope upstairs anymore, it'll be really hard to spot them with the small one down here. Now, why don't I actually head back on down to this region, because for one thing, I like it, and always fun to point out good old Wilhelm over there. Wilhelm is a name that is famous for a few reasons. This one, Let me actually get the specifics for Wilhelm. But you might know Wilhelm from a few things. Not named, the crater's not named for this Wilhelm, but you may have heard of the Wilhelm scream. It is a fun thing in a number of movies, a very specific scream. If you were like, I recognize that scream from like 50 movies. Yeah, it's probably the Wilhelm scream. But the crater's not named for that. No, it is named for Wilhelm IV, Landgrave of Hesse, a German astronomer who lived from 1532 to 1592. So let's go ahead and swing on back over in that area to actually take a look closer in that region. Let's see. I want to actually adjust the camera to bring us a bit closer to it. All right, so let's go ahead and zoom in right in this region. If we're going to find lava tubes, this is probably our best bet for it. But again, they're going to be probably too small to spot. Again, we got Shiller Crater right at the bottom of your screen there, which means where else are we looking? Well, again, if we take a peek back over here, we've got Shiller is the footprint hanging out down here. So what else can we spot? Well, we can quite readily spot this whole region right here with Longo Montanus and Legalia, Montanari, and Wilhelm all right up in that area. And everything is rotated. So in our field of view here, so Schiller's fallen off the bottom of our field of view. We got Longo Montanus right here, meaning that the other craters, including Wilhelm, will be right up here. Give me just a second. I want to try adjusting things here. So many different things trying to work now. Good. Okay. Anyway, all right. Yeah. So let's see. I really like. We've got another compound impact site right down here. Go ahead and learn about that one, because there's so many craters on the moon. I don't know the names of all of them, so we get to learn about them somewhat together. Well, let's see. We're looking for that one hanging out right over here. Double check that I'm looking at the correct thing. That's there. This would be it. Why does it not quite look right? Definitely in the right spot. Yeah, that is it. Okay. That is Hainzel. Hainzel, named for Paul Hainzel, a German astronomer from who lived from 1527 to 1581. But it is a setup with, again, a compound impact site where there are multiple craters there. Doesn't make as big of a compound impact site as we, again, believe Shiller to be, but it is still a decently sized one. Let's go ahead and get some quick measurements on that. The long axis of that one is on the order of around 82 kilometers, more like 83 kilometers, which comes out to about 51.5 miles. Yeah, so that is, again, Hainzel, which is falling off the bottom of our view here. This is that long axis, that 80 some odd kilometer axis there, to give you an idea of scales of things we're talking about here. Now, we again are getting a lot of daylight, which is interfering with a lot of what we can do. And with that, we'll be wrapping up here shortly. But before we do, you guys have any questions about what we've been looking at and what we've been talking about? Ooh. The twin craters. Let's see. I believe the twin craters Ron is referring to are probably these two. Now they are have descended down from the top left a bit because our telescope is wandering a bit. Let's go ahead and lose those. All right. A little bit of drifting because, again, we're highly zoomed in now. There we go. All right, so now they're down here. Those two craters. Let's find out who they are. There you are. Okay. Got 3 screens and a weird setup, and sometimes that mouse pointer likes to wander off. Oh dear. Wandering off. There goes those craters again. Oops. I've got my landmark with Hainzel down there. Be able to find what. Hainzel there. That's there. That should be there. Okay, there we go. All right, so looking at this, I worked my way up from Hainzel. We've got this crater here, which is Capuanus. I hope I'm not butchering that. I'm pretty sure I am. But that one there is... I cannot lose my mouse. That would be great. Oh, it's all the way over there. There it is. All right. Capuanus is named for Francesco Capuano di Manfredonia, Italian astronomer who lived from 1400 to an unknown time. All right, how about that? But those 2 twin craters to the upper right of Capuanus, these 2 here, they are together on the left and right. They are Mercator and Campanus. Not to be confused with the previous one. It's spelled differently. This one is spelled Campanus. So on the right, Mercator, likely same. Yep, it's Gerald D. Kremer Mercator, Belgian cartographer, geographer, and mathematician, likely the one responsible for many different maps you've looked at, in particular the projection known as the Mercator projection. It's likely the same Mercator there. But yeah, the size of that one, it's about 46 kilometers across or 28 miles across. And Campanus is named for Campanus of Navaria, an Italian astronomer who lived from 1200 to 1296. And like the other one, it's about 48 kilometers across, or just under 30 miles across. So those were a good spot there. Thank you for spotting those ones, Ron. They are quite a nice one to take a look at. Now let's see. We are going to go ahead and pull back out to our full view of the moon here. There we are. And with that, if there aren't any other questions, I want to go ahead and say thank you all for being here. We really appreciate you being here. And for anyone watching later, thanks for checking it out. I don't blame you for coming about and looking at this a bit later in the day. This was quite an early challenge for me, even though it was actually technically 30 minutes later than our previous morning live stream, which while that one was scheduled for 7 a.m., it was during daylight saving time, which meant it was actually physically 30 minutes earlier in the day. So this has been a lot of fun, and I hope you've all had a good time. We miss you too, Ron. We miss seeing everyone here. It's been quite a journey this year. We've got another one of these coming up at the end of the year, where we'll get a little bit more into that waning crescent, which means again we will be dancing with the daylight, as it were. Yeah, we'll be having a lot of fun there, looking even more along that edge, trying to get a bit more detail, a bit closer down towards the edge of the moon. But with that, special thank you to the Rancho Mirage Library and Observatory Foundation. Without them, we would not be able to have events like these. Thank you to all our docents who do so much for our facility. We really miss you guys. Again, we miss you, Ron. And really hope you guys all have a wonderful day. And we'll see you all next time. Keep on looking up, everyone.